I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is the invisibility of loss. When you pass through a significant tragedy, death, disease, betrayal, it changes who you are, and it changes how you see reality. You cannot go back to the person you were before, which is part of the grief associated with tragedy. It means, in part, grieving the loss of the person you used to be. And the change is so great that we can basically say that there are two groups of people: those who have passed through tragedy and those who haven't passed through tragedy yet. I say it like that because nobody escapes being touched by loss at some point in their lives, so everyone ends up in the first category over a long enough timeline. But until that happens, there are these two groups of people. Now, before I explain the importance of this distinction, please remember to like this episode and subscribe to this channel. It takes less than a second, costs you nothing, and it's an easy way for you to show your support. So, do the thing. Now, these two groups fundamentally separate humanity. It's almost like they live in two different realities. For better or for worse, I experienced a great deal of death and loss and suffering from a young age. And sometimes I would try to talk to my friends about some of the things that I was going through, and they would simply blanch, look uncomfortable, and change the subject. And I eventually understood that they just had no frame of reference to begin to comprehend some of the things that I was going through. Like, they literally could not think them because they were so foreign to their experience. I learned that talking about certain things with certain people just made them uncomfortable, and I wouldn't be understood anyway. So I just stopped talking about them and buried them inside of me. I used to think that I was cursed to have gone through so much pain and loss and suffering. Now I understand that I wasn't the only person to pass through tragedy, and many people have it much worse than I did. Just that I was one of the first people to pass through tragedy in my generation. And this, in fact, might be of some benefit to me for two reasons. First, it may allow me to be of some real help to others when they do inevitably pass through loss in a way they might not have been able to be of help to me. And second, it potentially allowed me to understand at an earlier age what was really important in life. Sometimes people only figure that out at the end of their lives, and that's a real tragedy. Now, as I've said, passing through tragedy changes who you are and how you see reality. And that means that certain aspects of reality are just invisible to folks until they've also been touched by loss. And there's a really great example of this psychological truth in Harry Potter, of all places. So allow me to share it with you. When Harry and the others first come to Hogwarts, they get off the train at the station, and they get loaded into these apparently magical self-driving carriages that ferry them from the station up to Hogwarts proper. How delightful. Now, Harry is no stranger to suffering. However, it's not until the end of the third year, when Harry witnesses the death of his godfather, that he comes into direct, conscious contact with death. And when he gets off the train to start his fourth year, he sees that the magical carriages, rather than driving themselves to Hogwarts, are actually hitched to these terrifying creatures called thestrals. They're these black skeletal horses with bat wings, and they totally freak Harry the frick out. And he tries to point them out to Ron and Hermione, who seem totally chill about these things, and they just think Harry is nuts. And that's because they can't see them. Apparently, none of the kids can see them. None of the kids except for Luna, whose mother died a few years back. So Luna has seen the Thestrals since day one. And she tells Harry, yeah, only people who have been touched by death can see the Thestrals. People think I'm crazy, but that's okay. I know that they'll see them eventually. So innocence is a kind of guardianship. But in this role, innocence also prevents people from seeing the true nature of reality. The Thestrals are real. It's their invisibility that is the illusion. Because it's absolutely useless to point that out to people until they pass through loss themselves, as they very literally can't see something invisible. But don't worry, it's only a matter of time before they do. So it's generally a good idea to be kind to each other. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for listening.